Right, Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone that rule well, that teach well, while learning truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophets, servants scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere in your children, shalom. And then today's video is going to be another video from the brother, the Hopeful Elect 3, building off of the video where he basically uploaded, and backing off of that. But as you can see, you got this Eve here, and she's basically going to be talking about all of the things in which it is that is occurring in the earth, as far as what America's allies basically turning their back against this place and all of these other different types of things. But we ultimately know that all of this is a port of prophecy, and that this is Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai's will ultimately to turn America's allies and all of these other nations against the whore. That's in prophecy, man. And I'm gonna actually go to that, right? This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. And it said, and the 10 horns, right, which represents the EU and the NATO, right, the beast system, which thou sawest upon the beast, right, these shall hate the whore, which is talking about America, Babylon the Great, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, right? And that's talking about ultimately them coming together with Russia and all of America's other enemies, and they're going to join in confederacy and nuke, displace America and destroy it, man, in the Third World War. And that's what we ultimately know the Lord's will is, and that's all part of prophecy, and those things will take place in the very near future, man. That's why we see everything increasing over there in the so-called Middle East. That's why you see Russia and China talking about that they'll back Iran and all of these different types of things, man, because the Lord is allowing everything according to his will to be done. As he tells you right here, I'm going to go to that. This is Isaiah chapter 46, and I'm going to start at verse 9 in the KJV, and it says, remember the former things of old, for I am Yahweh, and there is none else. I am Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and there is none like me. Verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, right? World War III hasn't happened yet, of course, but we know that it's coming. Saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure, and that's the counsel of the Lord, ultimately to bring forth judgment upon his place, America. So we know it's going to come. It's only a matter of time, man. So I'm going to get into this video so we can basically listen into what it is the woman is basically saying. But, she's, basically worried about all of the things in which it is that are to come. And this is what the men of the Lord have been warning you, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American men and women about, man, that these dangerous times in which it is that people don't want to believe is coming is going to come, man. As it tells you in this scripture, I'm going to get that matter of fact through the Spirit. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 1. It said, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me and what I shall answer when I am reproved, right? Verse 2. And the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, answered me and said, write the vision, right, which are the prophecies, and make it plain upon tables that he may run that readeth it. And that's what the men of the Lord are doing, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and the brothers on down teaching the same doctrine. We're warning you, Israelites, of these coming perils, man, warning you of all of these, judgments that the Lord is going to bring in the very near future. And World War III is a part of those judgments that is going to come forth, right? And it says, for the vision, right, is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And that's talking about America ultimately being destroyed, man. That's a part of prophecy, and that's the vision that's going to take place in the near future, man. As it says, though it tarry, wait for it, it will surely come, it will not tarry. So America will be judged, man. There's nothing nobody can do or say or feel to make that not come into fruition, man. Because that's ultimately, what Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai ultimately wants to come to pass for this place, is for this place to be destroyed, man. So, yeah, I'm going to get into the video now so we can see what it is she's talking about, right? Fair use under 1976 Copyright Act. Not getting paid for this video. This is only for educational purposes only. Fair use.
Meanwhile, Russia and China are talking with Iran. Yemen is talking with Iran. I heard North Korea is talking with Iran. Our biggest allies, Canada and Mexico, Donald Trump has turned them against us. Greenland, he's turned them against us. What allies do we have?
Right. And the only ally America will have in this time is Israel, man. And them in Israel will be destroyed. you know, and that's a part of prophecy, man, that the Lord is going to allow America and Israel to be destroyed, man, you know, and I'm actually go to a precept, you know, just touching on that, man, because we know the least of the flock have drawn them in. That's why you see America coming to the aid of Israel now, sending Israel weapons, you know, bombing Iran's nuclear facilities, all of those different things are all going according to prophecy. Now, America is deep in this war, man, you know, due to them striking Iran, that has raised the tensions higher. And now these other nations, like the woman said in the video, China and Russia, North Korea, they're coming together and basically saying that, you know, hey, we'll give Iran the nuclear weapons in which it is that they need, you know, to basically to protect themselves and things like that. So, like I said, everything is leading up to, you know, America's destruction, man. No more, none the less about it. You know, that's what we see all of these situations that are occurring around the world with these wars leading up towards. The big one, man, right? As it tells you in Revelations 11 and 14, it says the second woe was passing, behold, the third woe cometh quickly, man. Talking about the battle of Armageddon, man, right? Which in the Hebrew means Armageddon, which is the mountain of troops, man, where the Lord is going to lead all of these nations to fight in the Valley of Jehoshaphat during the Third World War. That's what everything is leading up towards, right? So I'm actually go to that. Joel chapter 3, and I'm going to kind of move around a little bit, right? But I'm going to start at verse 2. Because this is the counsel of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. So like I said, you know, no matter if people don't want to accept it or believe it or might not know, but the Lord is controlling everything, man. He's the one putting the spirit on these nations and these different leaders and things like that to ultimately to hate the whore, man, because it's all going according to his will. As it tells you in Proverbs 21 and 1, you know, the king's heart, meaning his mind, is in the hands of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will, man. You know, the Lord is putting the spirit on Putin and China and all of these other nations to have tensions with America, man. Right? Ultimately for him to bring forth his judgment upon this place. But this is Joel chapter 3, verse 2. KJV, it said, I will also gather all nations, right? That's why you hear her talking about all of those nations, right? The Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, you know, the Iranians, all of these other different nations, which we know they're the heathens according to the Bible, you know. And it says, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew means Yahweh Shaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land, right? And that's ultimately the main reason why we're going to see Yahweh Shem Yahushua ultimately bring judgment upon this whore, America, and these other nations, but mainly this place, America, man, because this is the place that have been oppressing the Lord's people the most, man, you know, through bondage, slavery, all of the things that Esau has ultimately done unto us in his land. And the Lord is going to make this place pay via the Third World War, man, right? And bring judgment upon this place. But this is Joel 3 and 9. It said, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty man, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. And that's ultimately what we see occurring as well. You know, you see all of these different nations preparing for war. And matter of fact, I'm going to go to a few articles in which it is that I have just to expound upon that. You know, you got Vladimir Putin basically, you know, trying to build nukes, which we know he's already in possession of, you know, which ultimately can target here in America and surpass America's defense systems. They're creating all type of ballistic missiles and things of that nature, ultimately to come up against this place, man, you know, because this place will be destroyed, man. You know, nothing is going to stop that. Right. So bear with me. I'm going to get this article that I got. Right. Right. This is just one of them, but I'm going to show various of them. Right. But as you can see, it says U.S. intelligence concludes Pakistan is developing a nuke that could reach America. Right. So why would they be doing that? You know, because like I said earlier, the king's heart, meaning his mind, is in the hands of the Lord. So the Lord is controlling the minds of these leaders and putting it in their spirit to do the things that they're doing. But why is everybody having that same mindset of, you know, coming up against America? Right. Because the Lord is ultimately putting it on their spirit to do these things, man. It's not because they want to. No, it's because it's the Lord's will and it's going to be done. Right. Oh, so bear with me. I'm going to get another one that I have. Right. It says Putin said Russia is starting mass production of a ballistic missile that he wants to duel with the U.S. made defenses. Right. So why would this man ultimately be wanting, you know, to create missiles that can ultimately, you know, pass through America's defenses, man, because they're all preparing to attack this place. That's why you got the whole BRICS alliance, man, with all of these other nations that are confederate against America, man. because they're all going to come together in these last days and they're going to destroy this place, man, and burn it with fire, via those thermonuclear missiles, man. That's what's coming, right? And I'm actually finished reading where I left off at. This is Joel chapter 3. I'm going to read verse 9 again. It said, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. And that's what you see all of these heathen nations doing. They're preparing for war to ultimately to fight against the whore in Israel, right? Which are those Amalekites over there in the land, right? Those little hats. It said, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, right? Verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I am strong. And that's ultimately what you see occurring. All of these nations that were once upon a time would have never came up against the whore, we ultimately see them, threatening America. You got Iran telling America that, they're going to attack their bases if they continue to allow Israel to strike them. And actually, I got an article on that, too, that I'm going to show, matter of fact, right? Right. It said Iran threatens to attack more U.S. military bases. Right. And this is allegedly coming out after Trump allegedly had made a peace deal between them and Israel, man, which we know there won't be any peace because according to prophecy, as the Lord have said in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So we know we're not living in a time of peace, as it tells you in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And I'm going to actually get that after I finish reading this. But I'm going to finish reading. This is verse 10. It said, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak sound strong. And that's the nations like Iran, North Korea, all of these nations that were once upon a time would have never came up against America. Now they have to technology, right? They had a possession of nuclear capabilities, right? Due to Russia, which is that guard, as it tells you in Ezekiel 38, that's going to be protecting all of these different heathen nations, right? They're all under the ban of Og and Magog, which is Russia, man. So that's why you got the weak saying that they're strong now, right? And it says, verse 11, assemble yourselves and come out, ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Verse 12, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And that's ultimately what's going to come, man, and nothing is going to stop that, man. It's part of prophecy for America's allies ultimately to turn their back against this place, man. All of these things that is ultimately being set up and being orchestrated is being controlled by Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shah. And like I said, again, we're just living in that time of season where all of these things are about to take place, in the very near future, right? So this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, right? And I'm going to start at verse 1, but the point is at verse 8, right? And it says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 2, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. Verse 3, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, right? Verse 4, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Verse 5, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, right? Verse 6, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away. Verse 7, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. This is the point right here. Verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace, right? So we're living in that time of war right now. And that's why you see ultimately all of these nations preparing themselves, man, and getting ready for it because they know it's only a matter of time before these things take off, man. It's going to happen, man. At the end of the day, America is bound to be destroyed through Bible prophecy, man. As it tells you in Revelations chapter 18, the Lord said it's going to take 1 hour for this place to be destroyed. And that's going to be through those thermal ICBM nuclear missiles that's going to come from all of these different nations that are going to join together in these latter days to come up against the whore in Israel, man, right? Even America's allies, man. All of these people are going to burn this place with fire, man, right? And I'm going to actually get back into the video so we can finish listening to what it is she's saying. But, these things are going to take place, man. And majority of the people here in this place, they don't know that this is all part of prophecy, so people ultimately thinking that, these things can be stopped, and they cannot be, man, because I'm going to go to another precept just, touching on that, man. Right. Bear with me. This is Isaiah chapter 55, verse 11, KJV. And it says, so shall my word, right, meaning these prophecies, be that goeth forth out of my mouth. Who is the mouthpiece of the Lord? The servants, the prophets, man. The men that he have set up in these latter times, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, that is ultimately warning you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American men and women of what's to come, man, right? It shall not return unto me void, meaning empty, right? But it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it, right? So that's ultimately talking about how all of these prophecies that the men of the Lord have been speaking and warning you Israelites about, right, that they're going to come to pass, man. You know, World War III is going to happen, man. And America is going to be destroyed by ICBM nuclear missiles, right along with the laser beams from the chariots. That's just what this place is going to have to go through, man. You know, and that's why we're preparing ourselves now in the spirit, you know, and Yahweh Ratazah, we be of the Lord's elect, that we ultimately can make it through this, because we know it's coming, man. You know, we, of course, don't know the hour or the day, but we know it's approaching and it's coming fastly, you know.
He's turned our allies against us. Meanwhile, the people that he's been cozying up with, they are turning towards Iran. That's how scary this situation is.
Right. And you heard what it is she said. She said that's just how scary it is. And she has the right to be scared, you know. Those that are ultimately not of the Lord's elect are going to be scared in that day, man, because we know that's what the Lord is bringing, man. It tells you that in the book of Joel, right? Chapter 2. I'm actually get that as well, right? Bear with me. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion, right? To Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh. For it is nigh at hand, right? Because we know ultimately Lord Yahushua is going to show up in the midst of World War III, man. And he's going to deliver his elect before America ultimately, you know, meets his fate by those missiles. And it says a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there have not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations, right? And I'm going to go down. It said, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, right? And that's talking about America, because as you can see, this is a beautiful landmass, you know, but everything over here is going to be melted, you know. And it said, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, and nothing shall escape them, right? That's talking about those missiles when they ultimately hit this place, man. As it tells you in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10, the elements and everything therein shall melt with fervent heat. You know, and that's going to happen during the Third World War, right? But I'm going to go all the way down, right, to, let me look for it, verse, Salakia, bear with me. I'm going to go to, I'm actually get another precept real quick through the spirit. I'm going to go to Malachi chapter 4, verse 1. And I'm going to read it in the KJV. And it said, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, right? That's talking about when those missiles hit America, man. And various other places that they're going to hit. Because we know they're not just going to hit America alone. You know, they're going to hit Israel. They're going to hit different places around the world, man. You know, but America itself is going to be the place that is going to be utterly destroyed, right? Nothing over here is going to be spared, man. This place is going to be a desert, right? And it said, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, right? So I'm actually go to another precept on just touching on America's desolation, man, because that's what's coming to this place, man. You know, I'm going to go to Revelations chapter 18. And I'm going to start at verse, no, Salakia for that, brothers and sisters. Internet moving a bit slow, but I'm going to go to Revelations chapter 18, And I'm going to start at verse... I'm going to start at verse 10, just getting off to the point, right? Straightforward. It says, standing, I'm going to start at verse 9, matter of fact. It said, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, right? That's talking about all of these heathen nations that have ultimately gotten rich off of this place, America, man, you know, through their trading in goods and, you know, things of that nature that they have dealt with the whore, their business, right? Shall bewail her, right? And lament for her. They're not going to be lamenting or crying or sad for this place, America, being destroyed. They're going to be sad because they know once this place go down that they're not going to be able to be rich anymore, right? All of that wealth and all of those things that they've ultimately accumulated, right, is going to be gone once this place is gone, right? And it says, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, right, which is going to be done through those thermonuclear missiles, right? In verse 10, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city, Babylon, right, which is America, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, you know, and that's what's going to happen, man, you know, at the end of the day, you know, and everything is all going according to prophecy. So we know that this place, America, is going to be destroyed, man. A lot of people ultimately can't fathom it because, like I said, these people love this place. But the reality is that this place doesn't have long left, man. And we can see that through the various prophecies in which it is that are fulfilling and happening day in and day out throughout the earth, right? That we're getting closer to this place's demise. So, you know, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. You know, Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying. So the next time I'm going to say shalom to the elect.